Her educational background includes a research master in clinical and cognitive neuroscience from Maastricht University that has sparked in her a lifelong passion towards psychology and neuroscience. She has completed her bachelor's in biotechnology, chemistry, and zoology from Christ University, Bengaluru. Both of these specializations have cumulatively ignited in her a drive for a scientific and evidence based outlook. And coming from a privileged background in a country with stark class and caste inequalities, has uniquely positioned her to appreciate the tremendous responsibility she has towards the community and the society at large. She is currently working with South India AIDS Action Program as a program officer, working on a project that focuses on adolescent mental health in low income communities in Chennai city, based out of India. At this point, Kavya is very keen on exploring and researching intersectional mental health practice, especially among marginalized communities that have long been denied access to the same. This seems to be a lot of passion. In fact, it requires a lot of commitment and dedication to be part of social projects. So, in today's episode, let us learn more about Kavya's passion towards better community. Hello, hi there. Welcome to the Guiding Voice podcast series. The Guiding Voice for a Better Future. This podcast is to help professional students, IT employees, and entrepreneurs to shape their careers. Dear listeners, in every episode, we interact with industry experts, or academicians, or coaches, or thought leaders across the globe to drive some insightful conversations that will help each one of you learn great things. Also, we share an interesting trivia or a fun fact about the IT world or technology towards the end. So stay tuned till the end. Thank you so much for tuning in. This is your host Naveen Samala, and I have about 18 years of rich and diverse experience in the world of IT. And today we are going to discuss the topic career options in social work. And I'm extremely pleased to have Kavya part of TGV's journey in shaping the careers and lives of millions across the globe. Kavya, welcome to TGV. Shall we get started?
Thank you so much for having me here. I'm really excited to be part of TGV's program, and I can't wait to get started.
All right. I think that is so fascinating. And for the benefit of TGV audience, this is the first time we are interviewing a second generation guest. Kavya's mom, Soumya Narayanan, was featured last year, wherein she spoke about the art of communication. And in fact, it is still among the top 10 episodes in the history of TGV. And I'm very glad to have Kavya as well part of TGV's journey. Thank you to Kavya as well as Soumya.
Thank you so much.
All right. So, Kavya, this social service, right? It is very intensive. And as I mentioned earlier, it requires a lot of commitment, dedication, focus. Because in today's world, wherein people are running behind money, fame, success, so on and so forth. And by looking at your career journey, looks like you are from life sciences background. But what made you shift from the life sciences to this very noble humanitarian sector?
So I have been part of the life science for all my life. So I did my bachelor's in biotechnology, chemistry, and zoology from Christ University. And then I decided to specialize in neuroscience from Maastricht University. And both of those experiences have given me a lot of interest and passion for psychology and neuroscience. And I've learned a lot about the subject, and I am going to be a lifelong learner of the subject. But I knew that somewhere in the pursuit that I was lacking something, a larger purpose for why I was learning what I was learning and for what I wanted to do with my life and my career. And so I decided that I was going to make this transition. It's a huge transition for me, but I think it feels right. It feels perfect. So when I was back in India, I interned with a couple of mental health organizations. And now I'm as part of my role as program officer. I work with low income communities here in Chennai, and it's been very, very rewarding. I think I always have wanted to be part of something bigger. And I know that these communities have been underserved for the longest time. And I'm so glad to be doing what I am doing right now.
See, your passion and your smile speaks it all in terms of how committed you are towards being in the humanitarian sector. But I'm very curious because the Gen Zs and the Centennials, the so-called Centennials, they can earn like massive income just by getting into IT or getting into any of the most happening sectors like biotechnology, genome, and DNA mapping. There are so many things which can be pursued, right? But you have chosen this humanitarian sector. So, can you also share with our audience what kind of career opportunities are available in the humanitarian sector?
Right. So actually, initially I found it a little weird that we even have a social impact sector separately, right? Ideally, all of the sectors we have should be geared towards social change, and I know we're still moving towards that. So I feel like this podcast. I think we are already inviting students and professionals from different sectors to make sure that their professions are geared towards social change. So I feel like that's really important, and I want everyone to be cognizant of that. But apart from that, I think that of course we all need money. We're not going to deny that we need money to sustain ourselves, but we also need people around us. So we thrive in community, and I think when we see that there are people in our community who don't have the same privileges as us, I think we would be naturally inclined towards making their lives better. I think that's one of my key passions and why I want to be working in the humanitarian sector in the first.
Great. I think what are the career opportunities in the humanitarian sector?
So it's a long list, and I don't think I can cover all of that in one episode. But to just give you an idea, even for an NGO to work, so we need people in administration, right? And then we need people in accounting. We need people handling fundraising and finances. We need operations managers. We need program officers who would go out into the field and work, just like me. But that's just a small team I'm talking about. Outside, we also have people in academia, people doing policy research. We have policy analysts. We have people working in global think tanks. We even have people from architecture and design, and especially towards human centric design, making sure that their products are actually catering the communities that they're serving. So it's a huge, vast range. So there's a lot that we can do in the sector.
That's great. There seems to be humongous list of opportunities for somebody who can really explore. Maybe what I would say, if they want to explore, they have to start doing some research. That way they can be cognizant of the various opportunities that are available in this area. Now, let's talk some myths about the work that you guys do, right? Because I'm not sure about the income. I do not want to comment on that, but people think differently, right? Once you graduate, and especially in the society like India, right? Success is measured by how much you earn, right? And how much famous you are. We are not matured stage wherein these people that are working in humanitarian sector are being appreciated, right? So probably you may want to share or bust the myths about the work that you guys do.
Right. So yes, I feel like people still have a very limited understanding of the humanitarian sector in itself. For one, I keep getting asked, since you're working with an NGO, all you do is charity, right? You give people free food, free clothes, and free gifts. And I just want to immediately correct them and tell them that there's so much more. It's not charity. In fact, there's a lot of subtle behavioral change that happens in the sector. So, for example, when we go to a community and we sense that there's a lack and a need, for example, a girl child is not going to school. So we explore with the girl and her family and the community around, why is this happening? Why is she not going to school? So for one, it could just be a lack of interest, but that's very rare. In most cases, it's because they don't have the correct infrastructure to support them towards going to school. They don't have public toilets, for example. They don't have proper roads. They don't have, right now with online classes, they don't even have mobile phones to be able to access online classes. So there's a lot of need and a lack that prevents them from doing the things that they actually want to do. So our work is mostly geared towards changing those, to make those systems more accessible for the people to pursue their dreams. We don't just give them out freebies and hope that things will change, because that's not sustainable. So that's, I think, one of the biggest myths that I see in my own work. Another example is there are a lot of disabled people in the communities that we work with. And most of the times they don't have the access that they need in order to be able to go to school or to college or to even work. For example, not a lot of institutions are wheelchair accessible, for example. And what about systems for mental health? What about people living with serious mental illness? How much are they supported in workplace? I feel like all of these are questions that we really need to think deep about, and I think the social sector helps us solve some of them.
No, as you rightly mentioned, people are really unaware, right, in terms of the kind of background work that happens, because only thing that is visible is about giving money or distribution of gifts, blankets, food, especially on the special occasions and all. But as you rightly pointed out, if we talk about the limited infrastructure that we have, in some rural parts of the country, they are not even aware of how to build a toilet because they have been following that custom of visiting the nearby forest or nearby riverside kind of thing just to attend their nature calls and all, right? And they are not aware of the hygiene factors, and they are not even aware of the cost implications that are involved. So, in my opinion, probably it is more about spreading the awareness. And as you rightly mentioned, it is also about finding the root cause. Because in case if you can identify the root cause and come up with the proper countermeasure, then definitely it is going to lead to a permanent solution. But I would commend you and everybody that is part of this social sector or the humanitarian sector for all the great work that you guys have been doing. So kudos to you. As I said, it requires a lot of passion and commitment without which you cannot even move forward. Some of the experts in this sector, like Neetu Sharma, okay, who leads this foundation, which was set up by Dr. Kiran Bedi and all, and even their team and a couple of our speakers, okay, who are based out of this Delhi, Gurgaon area and all, they have been trying hard in terms of educating the people or educating the children from the slums, and they're seeing success after relentless efforts for over a decade and all, wherein the students that they have educated are getting some good jobs. And again, they're joining hands and giving back to the community, right? So likewise, the small steps that each one of you is taking, right, it is going to have a very bigger impact. But the transformation is little slow. We should not get bogged away. Those are my 2 cents. And keep up doing that passionate work. Definitely, every effort that you guys are putting in is going to yield into a great result, which is going to transform the nation and transform the world at large. So, with that being said, let me move on to my next question. As every field is evolving, like if you consider IT, we have these artificial neural networks, artificial intelligence, computer vision, and many other technologies coming in. Similarly, if we talk about the health sector, right, we are talking about robotic surgeons which are operating a ill patient. And in addition to that, we are also talking about 3D printing of human organs. So likewise, every sector is evolving and there are some new fields coming in. So what are some of the new fields that are coming up in the social sector?
So yeah, that's completely true. We constantly keep evolving as a society. And I think as we're moving into the next sort of decade, we are seeing that there's a complete shift in the landscape of careers. We're not doing the same jobs, and there's the demand for the same jobs is not the same as it was about 10 years ago. So likewise with the social sector, a lot of things are changing. For one, I recently read an article in The Atlantic. They talked about how we have a whole caregiving economy that's blooming now. And this is different from caretaking, for example. So when people think of caretaking, they think, oh, those are the nurses, or those are social workers who help people, who help old people, for example, or who help them, who take care of their basic needs. But it's so much more than that. We have behavioral change analysts who will work with people individually and help them transform their lives. We have health coaches, we have personalized coaches for people. And then when it comes to technology, we're now starting to see apps for mental health, because there is a huge need right now, especially in the context of the pandemic, where people's social lives and their mental health has been significantly impacted. And people are looking for newer ways to enable people to access those services. So right now we have mental health apps that connect people to service providers, to psychiatrists, to psychologists, and there are crisis hotlines which you can reach out to in case you're in distress. There are people who on the other end also offer just free conversations, just a safe space for you to vent, for you to talk about what's happening in your life. In fact, there are also a lot of community apps that are developing now, social apps, where people can get together and perform common activities for fun. I think this is becoming a new trend now because people have realized the importance of community. People realize that, no matter how much you run for fame or success on your own, you still depend on the people around you in order to flourish. And they're starting to find meaning in helping other people around them to also grow and to also flourish. So I think that's some of the newer trends that we're seeing in the field, and I'm super excited to see what the field brings us, in the next couple of years, maybe even in the next decade.
This seems to be very exciting set of activities, set of trends that are taking birth, I would say, or that are coming into picture, especially in the caregiving economy. And I'll tell you one recent article that I came across. Right, it was talking about instant gratification generation. Right, people of your age group and maybe younger than you. Right, you don't have to stand in queue in order to withdraw money because we are in the UPI generation wherein you scan the barcode, make the payment. And similarly, you don't have to cook food. You have Zomatos and Swiggies. The moment you order, it comes at your doorstep. So is the case with the big basket grocers. Unfortunately, I'm talking about the Indian scenario. For the global audience, excuse me, I could not talk about the alternatives that are available in your respective region. But these are all certain apps which have been built for the convenience. But that convenience is leading to instant gratification, which leads to least patience from these users or from these generation folks. So in this era of instant gratification and all, definitely this mental health is going to be a mainstream. So folks that are working on the other side and being part of this caregiving economy, definitely they're going to play a very vital role. And I'm very optimistic about it. In fact, it is much needed. So thank you so much for bringing that particular topic. I think this conversation has been very fantastic and very serious. We have been talking about the social sector, humanitarian part, how can we build a better society, so on and so forth. But at the same time, let's also add some spice to the episode. I would like to ask you a few interesting rapid fire questions, okay, wherein you can briefly answer them within 2 to 3 words or maximum one phrase. Are you ready, Kavya?
Yes, I am.
Perfect. Let me fire the first bullet out of the rapid fire. What is your favorite movie dialogue?
Okay, so it's technically not from a movie, but it's from a series called BoJack Horseman, and it's called "There is no deep down. All we are is all we do." I love that.
Wow, there is no deep down. All we have is all we do. Am I right? Wow, so profound. All right, so with that, let me move on to my next question. What is your favorite failure?
Okay, this one's going to be a little long, but when I was in Sweden, I remember I signed up for a meetup, which was actually towards 13 to 15-year-olds in Sweden, and I accidentally ended up there. So the entire conversation was in Swedish, and I didn't understand a word. But I ended up meeting some great people, so I think this was my favorite failure.
That's quite interesting. I can imagine your situation. All right, so let me move on to my next question. So, Kavya, can you reveal a hidden talent that no one knows about you?
I can make some killer Maggie.
Wow. Okay, so Maggi is nothing but one of the brands that sell noodles in India. And of course, it is available in other countries as well. All right, so that's wonderful. I would definitely love to taste it when I happen to visit Bangalore. All right, moving on to my next question. So, Kavya, what has been a question on your mind for which you never got an answer so far?
I think it's how the human consciousness works. No matter how many tech talks I see, I don't get an answer.
I think one research area probably you may want to explore. All right, so that brings me to the last question for the rapid fire. What is one message that you like to give to your own younger version, younger Kavya?
So I think one thing is that when I was younger, I used to want to do a lot of things on my own. So I used to just be holed up in my room. I used to read a lot of books. But I think one thing I want to tell my younger version is that you grow with the people around you. So it's okay to ask for help. It's okay to help people. It's okay to bring them into your fold. And a lot of change in society will happen if people get together and work towards the same cause.
Wow, that's simply amazing. All right, that was a quick rapid fire with so many profound thoughts around. With that, let me flip back to the mainstream and ask you one final question for today's session. So, Kavya, what will be your one piece of advice to those aspiring to make big in their careers?
So I'm not talking exclusively about the humanitarian sector, but in any other sector, I think we will succeed if we keep people in mind. We all work with people, we work towards people. And so I think the future is people centric design. So I think that's what motivates us to do our jobs well. And I think the money will automatically come. So just keep the people in your mind always.
Simply fabulous. Yeah, I resonate with you. But today we are talking about the artificial intelligence, the world of artificial intelligence. Imagine if robots are also equipped with emotional intelligence. Then world will be full of emotions, right?
Yeah, that's an exciting and a terrifying possibility. Yeah.
I concur with you. All right. So that was fantastic conversation that we had so far. And thank you so much, Kavya, for joining us today and being part of TGV's journey in shaping the lives and careers of millions across the globe. And it was a great topic that you have covered. Career options in social work. In fact, we have discussed a lot of topics around the humanitarian sector and the trends. And in addition to that, one thing which stays with me is about the people aspect that you spoke about. The message that you have given to your own younger version, and also the message that you are giving to the rest of the world, saying that it is going to be a people centric world. So try to be around with people. That was a very profound message. Thank you so much again for being part of TGV's journey.
Thank you so much for having me.
Pleasure is ours. All right. So it brings us to the trivia segment of today's episode. So, folks, today's trivia is about Google. And do you know what option does Google rely on mowing their lawn? So, instead of mowing their lawn, Google rents goats to eat the grass at their Mountain View headquarters. And the interesting fact is, a herder will bring about 200 goats, which are herded by a border collie named Jen, and he is going to have the goats eat the grass and clear off the space. Interesting, isn't it? Thank you so much for listening. There is more in store, folks. Stay tuned. Take care. Be safe. Until next time, bye bye. And we are signing off for today. See you all in the next episode with another wonderful guest.